It was a rainy Monday in New Orleans when Kendra Jackson first opened the letter. The envelope was thick and cream-colored, her name carefully written in blue ink. Inside was a note that smelled faintly of ink and soap. She read it slowly, heart pounding. The letter was from Elijah Knox, the man she'd been writing to for nearly a year. Elijah was locked up in Angola prison for armed robbery. He had 6 years left to serve, but from the moment they started writing, something grew between them. Kendra had found him through a prison pen pal website. At first, it was just curiosity. She never expected to fall in love. He was tall, built like an athlete, with deep brown eyes and a smile that made her blush even through photographs. His words were thoughtful. His letters were long. He listened to her pain and shared his dreams. In a world that had judged both of them, Elijah had made her feel seen. Now in the middle of the living room of her small apartment in Algiers, Kendra read the line that made her hands shake. "Will you marry me, Kendra? I may be behind bars, but you hold the key to my heart." Tears rolled down her cheeks. She clutched the letter to her chest. Yes. 1,000 times, yes. She visited the prison that weekend, wearing her best dress. She walked through metal detectors and guards until she reached the visitor's room. There he was, Elijah in his tan jumpsuit, eyes wide with nervous hope. He stood and she ran to him. Right there in front of two guards and another inmate, Elijah got on one knee and held up a simple plastic ring. The room went quiet. Kendra said yes. The guards clapped. Another inmate whistled. Elijah kissed her hand. That moment made everything worth it. The prison walls, the past, the judgments of others, they all faded away. Over the next few weeks, the engagement became a local story. A journalist from a small New Orleans magazine even interviewed her. "Love conquers all," she had said proudly. But there was one thing she hadn't told Elijah. One thing she feared might destroy everything. Kendra was a transgender woman. It wasn't a secret in her everyday life. Her co-workers knew. Her neighbors knew. She'd transitioned over 6 years ago. But Elijah, she had never told him directly. She had planned to, many times. But every time she tried, she got scared. What if he changed his mind? What if he left her? "I'll tell him next visit," she told her friend Sasha. But next visit became next week, then the week after. And then Elijah's parole was granted. He was coming home. They would finally live together. She had to tell him. She had no idea that the man who had once held her hand with love would soon wrap those same hands around her neck. The summer heat in New Orleans was unforgiving the day Elijah Knox walked out of prison. The air was thick, the kind that stuck to your skin like syrup. But Elijah didn't notice. He stood on the edge of freedom, dressed in jeans and a plain white tee, holding a small duffel bag filled with letters, toiletries, and hope. Kendra was waiting across the parking lot, leaning against her blue Toyota Corolla, shaking slightly. Her heart pounded. This was the moment they'd both dreamed about for months. She wore a yellow sundress, her curly hair pulled back, her smile wide but nervous. When their eyes met, Elijah dropped his bag and rushed to her. He wrapped her in a hug so tight she almost lost her breath. She held him back just as tightly, tears falling again. Only this time, they were from joy. "You smell like real air," he whispered into her ear. "You're really home," she whispered back. They drove back across the bridge to Algiers in silence, fingers intertwined on the gear shift. The city buzzed around them. Second lines, sirens, people yelling over stoops. But inside the car, it was quiet, comfortable. Elijah stared out the window at the streets he hadn't seen in 5 years, amazed by how much and how little had changed. Kendra had cleaned the apartment top to bottom. There were fresh sheets on the bed, food in the fridge, even new towels in the bathroom. She'd made a small "Welcome Home" sign and taped it above the TV. Elijah stepped inside slowly, almost afraid to touch anything. He took a deep breath and turned to her. "I can't believe I'm really here," he said, "with you." "You're safe now," she said, "and we have time. Real time." That night, they sat on the couch eating pizza and watching reruns of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Kendra rested her head on his shoulder. Elijah couldn't stop glancing at her. The curve of her smile, the warmth in her eyes. "You're perfect," he said. "You saved me." Kendra swallowed hard. Her stomach twisted. That moment, the warmth, the peace, it would all change soon. Elijah, she said softly, there's something I need to tell you. He turned to her, concerned. What is it? She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Nothing, she lied. Just, I'm happy you're home. He smiled and kissed her forehead. But Kendra couldn't sleep that night. She stared at the ceiling long after Elijah started snoring. Her secret was a heavy stone pressing on her chest. Every day she waited made it worse. By morning, she knew what she had to do. It wasn't fair to either of them to keep pretending. The next evening after dinner, she sat him down at the table. Elijah, she began, hands trembling, I want to talk to you about something important. It's about me, about before we met. He looked at her, his face calm. Okay, what is it? Kendra looked him in the eyes, forcing herself not to look away. I'm transgender. I was assigned male at birth, but I've been living as a woman for many years now. This is who I am. This is who you fell in love with. Silence. Complete, terrifying silence. Elijah stared at her, eyes unblinking. Then he stood up slowly from the table. Kendra's heart dropped. Elijah, say something. He didn't speak. He walked to the door, grabbed his shoes and left. He didn't come back that night, and when he did return, he wasn't the same man she had welcomed home. Elijah didn't come back for 2 days. Kendra called his phone over and over. No answer. She texted. Nothing. She even drove to his cousin's place in the Ninth Ward, where Elijah sometimes mentioned staying after release. But no one had seen him. Those 2 days stretched like weeks. Kendra barely ate. She barely slept. Her mind raced with questions and fear. Was he angry? Disgusted? Betrayed? But most of all, she was afraid he might hurt himself. Then on the third night, just past 10 p.m., she heard the lock on her apartment door click. The door creaked open, and Elijah stepped inside. He looked different, not in the way of clothes or hair, but his eyes. They weren't soft anymore. They were hard, cold, like glass that had cracked and couldn't be fixed. Kendra stood up quickly. Elijah, I've been so worried. He walked past her into the kitchen, opened the fridge, grabbed a beer, and took a long drink. Still, he said nothing. Elijah, she said again, softer. Please, talk to me. He turned to face her. His voice was low. So it's true? Kendra swallowed. Yes, everything I told you was true. I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared. He stared at her. Scared? Of me? Number scared of losing you. You should have told me from the beginning, he snapped, slamming the beer down. You let me sit in prison, writing love letters to someone I didn't even know. You let me propose to someone who lied. I didn't lie, Kendra said, voice shaking. I just waited. I didn't hide who I am. I'm still me. The person you fell in love with hasn't changed. Elijah walked closer. Too close. But you weren't honest. You let me make a fool of myself. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I love you, Elijah. That hasn't changed. Please don't let this ruin everything. He stared at her like she was a stranger. For a long moment, silence filled the room again. Then he stepped back and picked up his bag from the couch. I need air, he muttered. Elijah. I said I need air, he shouted, slamming the door behind him so hard the frame shook. Kendra dropped to her knees, sobbing into her hands. She had hoped for anger, sure, but not this coldness. Not the look in his eyes that didn't match the man she knew. That night, he didn't come back again. But he was watching. From a block away, he sat in a borrowed car, watching the lights in her apartment, staring at the windows through the fogged-up windshield. His mind raced. His thoughts weren't straight. He felt embarrassed, ashamed, angry, used. To him, the love they shared now felt like a trap. He kept hearing voices, memories from prison, things men said about people like Kendra. He didn't know how to handle it. His emotions were like waves crashing into each other. And in that storm of confusion, anger began to take over. By sunrise, Elijah made a choice. If the woman he loved was not who he believed she was, then maybe she didn't deserve the love he gave. Maybe she didn't deserve to live at all. It was a quiet Thursday morning when Elijah returned. The air was heavy with humidity, but the sky was clear. From the outside, nothing looked unusual. But inside Elijah's mind, a storm was brewing. Silent, focused, dangerous. Kendra heard the knock at the door just after 8 a.m. She hadn't expected it. She hadn't heard from him in days. Her heart jumped as she walked to the door, hesitated, and opened it slowly. There he was, calm, clean, collected. He wore a plain black hoodie, jeans, and a look she couldn't quite read. "Elijah, can I come in?" His voice was flat, but not cold. Kendra nodded and stepped aside. He walked past her, into the living room where they had once laughed and kissed and dreamed. Now the air between them felt like ice. "I've been thinking," he began, sitting down slowly on the couch. "A lot." Kendra stayed standing. "Me too." "I was angry," he admitted. "Felt like my whole world flipped." "I understand," she said. "I should have told you sooner, but I was scared. I thought maybe, if you saw who I am now, you'd still love me." He looked at her with tired eyes. "Do you really believe that?" She nodded. "Yes." Elijah rubbed his hands together slowly, staring at the floor. "You know what hurt the most? It's not even the truth. It's that you waited. You let me dream. You let me build something in my head that wasn't real." Kendra's voice cracked. "It was real. The love was real. Every word in my letters was real." He stood up slowly. "But you weren't." She flinched. "I am. This is me. This is who I've always been. I didn't transition to fool anyone. I transitioned to live." He stepped closer. Too close again. But this time he didn't yell. Instead he whispered, "So you've always been like this?" "Yes." His face didn't move. "And you thought I'd just accept it?" "I prayed you would," she whispered. He reached into his hoodie pocket, pulled something out, a small velvet ring box. Her eyes widened. "Elijah?" He opened it slowly. The same plastic ring he proposed with in prison sat inside. It looked just the same, but now it felt different. He held it out to her. "I wanted to give this back," he said. "I don't think it belongs here anymore." Kendra stared at it, tears brimming. "Please don't do this." He closed the box. "I have one last question." She swallowed. "Okay. Did you ever really love me?" His eyes didn't blink. "With everything in me," she whispered. He nodded. Then as she reached for him, just a step, just a hand, he pulled back. That's when she saw something flash in his eyes. Not love, not pain, something else. He lunged forward fast, too fast. Kendra screamed. The next moments were a blur, a struggle, a shout, a thud, a silence. And then the apartment fell quiet, dead quiet. The neighbors heard the scream, but in a city like New Orleans, it didn't mean much. Screams came with the territory. Drunken fights, domestic arguments, parties gone wrong. No one called the cops. Inside apartment 2B, the silence was thick. The only sound was the buzzing of the refrigerator and the soft, distant hum of an air conditioner in the hallway. Elijah stood still in the middle of the room, his hands shaking. Kendra lay crumpled on the floor. Blood spread from beneath her head, a dark red pool that crept slowly across the beige tiles. Her eyes were open, empty. Elijah looked down at his hands, one of them still clenched. He didn't even remember hitting her that hard, but he had. Once, maybe twice. She had begged him to stop. He hadn't. He backed away from her, breathing heavy, his heart pounding so loud it was deafening. The room felt like it was spinning. He hadn't planned to kill her. Or maybe, deep down, he had. He wiped his hands on his jeans and looked around. Panic crept in. The rug beneath the coffee table was stained. Her phone was near the kitchen counter. A chair had tipped over during the struggle. He paced back and forth. "What do I do?" he whispered to himself. Prison taught him a lot. It taught him how to lie, how to hide fear, how to survive. But no one ever taught him what to do when you kill someone you once loved. He thought of running, just walking out the door and disappearing, maybe heading toward Baton Rouge, or even out west. But where would he go? Who would help him? He reached for her phone. The screen lit. Up, Missed calls, messages from Sasha, her best friend. He dropped it fast like it had burned him. He looked back at Kendra. She looked peaceful now, like she was sleeping. Like they'd never argued, never cried, never fought. But she was gone. A life taken. By his hands. His mind flashed to the prison bars again. The cell, the cold bed, the noise, the cage. He couldn't go back there. He ran to the sink and scrubbed his hands with dish soap. The blood swirled down the drain. But it didn't feel gone. Then he did something strange. He picked up the ring box from the floor, opened it, stared at the plastic ring for a long time. He placed it gently next to her body and left. He didn't slam the door this time. He closed it quietly like he didn't want to wake a sleeping child. The hallway was silent. The world outside still spun. Inside, the apartment sat in stillness. The welcome home sign still hung above the TV, fluttering slightly from the fan. And beneath it, the woman who believed in love, who dared to hope, was gone. But her story wasn't. Because 2 hours later, a maintenance worker named Gerald came to fix a leaking faucet. And what he found inside apartment 2B would shock the city. Gerald Michaels was a 62-year-old maintenance worker who had been fixing things at Cypress Grove Apartments for nearly 2 decades. That Thursday morning, he had no reason to think anything would be different. He sipped his coffee from a plastic thermos, wiped sweat off his bald head, and dragged his old red toolbox up to the second floor. Apartment 2B had reported a leaky kitchen faucet 2 days earlier. He knocked once. No answer. He knocked again. Louder this time. Maintenance. Anybody home? Still no response. He sighed, pulled out his key ring, and gently unlocked the door. The moment it opened, a wave of stillness hit him. Too still. Something wasn't right. He stepped inside. Then he saw the blood. It had dried by now. Dark, sticky, ugly, stretched across the tile like spilled paint. At first he thought maybe someone had gotten hurt and left in a hurry. Then he turned the corner and saw her. Kendra, face down, body still, no movement. His heart stopped. "Oh, Lord," he whispered, stumbling backward. He dropped his toolbox with a loud clang and ran to the hallway, yelling for help. A woman poked her head out from 2D. "Call the cops," Gerald shouted. "Somebody's dead." Within 10 minutes, the apartment complex was crawling with officers. Yellow tape, sirens, flashing red and blue lights. Detective Monica Reyes arrived just before noon, a seasoned homicide investigator from NOPD. Reyes was known for being quiet, methodical, and deeply observant. She stepped inside the small apartment, her sharp eyes scanning everything. The blood pattern, the position of the body, the ring box near Kendra's hand. "Female victim," the coroner said softly. "No signs of forced entry. Head trauma, likely blunt force. Time of death, early morning, maybe between 9 and 11 a.m. yesterday. Who found her?" "Maintenance guy. Said he came to fix a leaky faucet." Reyes crouched near the body. "What's her name?" "Kendra Jackson." She glanced around. "Where's her phone?" "On the counter." Reyes grabbed a glove, picked it up and swiped. Dozens of missed messages. One name kept popping up. Elijah. Reyes stood up. "Run a background check on him and pull security footage from the front and side entrances." "Yes, ma'am." It didn't take long. The footage showed a tall man in a hoodie arriving just after 8 a.m. and leaving less than an hour later. Same clothes, same face. The same man who was recently released from Angola prison. Elijah Knox. The team pulled his file. Armed robbery, 5-year sentence, recently paroled. "Looks like love gone bad," said the officer beside her. Reyes didn't respond. She noticed something near the TV, a yellow paper sign taped to the wall. "Welcome home. Print out his last known address," she said, "and check with parole officers. He can't have gone far." Outside, Sasha Davis, Kendra's best friend, arrived, crying and shaking. "She didn't deserve this," Sasha said through sobs. "She was just trying to love someone who didn't love her back." "Did she ever mention feeling threatened?" Reyes asked. "She was scared after she told him the truth. She told me he might not take it well." "What truth?" Reyes asked. Sasha hesitated. "That she was transgender." Reyes paused. She nodded once. Find Elijah, she said to her team. Now. The clock was ticking. Elijah Knox was out there. And now it wasn't just about love or secrets. It was about justice. The manhunt for Elijah Knox moved quickly. By Friday morning, he was the #1 target on every officer's radar in New Orleans. His face was plastered across local news stations with headlines like, "Ex-con suspected in murder of fiancée days after prison release." The public was shocked. Kendra's story, once celebrated as a symbol of love overcoming odds, was now a cautionary tale. Vigils started forming outside her apartment. Flowers piled at her doorstep. Her neighbors, who once smiled at her in the hallway, now cried quietly in the corners of the building. Detective Monica Reyes sat in her car, watching the news replay clips of Kendra's interview just weeks earlier, the one where she smiled and said, "He saved me in ways I didn't know I needed." Now she was gone, and Elijah was running, but not for long. Using phone pings and parole check-ins, officers traced Elijah to an old friend's apartment on the outskirts of Baton Rouge. He'd been hiding in the basement, living off bottled water and snack cakes. When the SWAT team kicked in the door just before 2 a.m. Saturday morning, Elijah didn't resist. He sat on a bare mattress with his head down and hands out. "I didn't mean to kill her," he said as they cuffed him. "I just wanted her to understand what she did to me." Those words haunted the detectives all the way back to the station. In the cold, gray interrogation room, Detective Reyes sat across from Elijah. A recorder clicked on. "You're being charged with the murder of Kendra Jackson," she said plainly. "Tell me what happened." Elijah stared at the table. "She lied to me." "She told you the truth," Reyes replied. "You just didn't like it." "I was in love with her," he shouted, slamming the table. "I proposed to her. I wrote to her every damn week in prison. She let me build a dream that wasn't real." Reyes didn't flinch. "And you ended her life because of it?" I snapped. "I didn't go there to kill her. I just wanted to talk. But when she told me, I couldn't breathe. I felt sick, like she tricked me, like I was less of a man." He paused. "And when she reached for me, I lost it." Reyes leaned forward. "You didn't just kill her, Elijah. You made a decision. You cleaned your hands. You placed the ring beside her like it meant something." He looked up, eyes filled with something between regret and confusion. "She deserved the truth too, right? Shouldn't I have the right to know?" "You had that right," Reyes said firmly. "But she had the right to live." Elijah Knox was charged with second-degree murder. At his trial, the prosecution played recordings of Kendra's calls to friends, describing her fear after revealing the truth. The jury listened in silence as they heard the last voicemail she left Sasha. "No matter what happens, I still believe in love, even if it costs me everything." It did. The verdict, guilty. Life without parole. Kendra's death became national news. Her story sparked outrage and painful conversations about transphobia, prison romance, and the dangers faced by transgender women, especially Black trans women. Her name was added to memorial walls, protest signs, and public vigils. But most of all, it lived on in hearts. She became a symbol of bravery, of honesty, and of the terrible price some pay just to be themselves. Detective Reyes attended the memorial service. She stood in the back and watched candles light up the steps of the church. People held photos of Kendra, smiling, full of life. And even though Reyes had seen death too many times to count, this one stayed with her, because Kendra didn't die from violence alone. She died from being misunderstood, from being unloved at the moment she needed it most.